Manpower Minister Josephine Teo says that over the past decade, companies in Singapore have been making adjustments to deal with an aging workforce. She said this as at last Sunday's National Day rally sets off debate on retirement and re-employment ages.
Retirement age is going up to 65 and re-employment to 70 by 2030.
Well, the feedback has been quite positive, certainly on the part of the workers. They've been waiting for this, as they've been wanting to hear some movement on retirement age and re-employment age. And then on the part of the employers, they've also known that something was coming. So it hasn't come as a big surprise to them. And most of the employers tell us that they appreciate that there is a clear roadmap over the next 10 years. They also appreciated the fact that only the first step has been pinned down, meaning that both the retirement age as well as the re-employment age, they go up by 1 year in July 2022. But the next steps will be a subject of further deliberations. So I think they appreciate that given the current economic climate, they have some certainty of the first move. They know what the roadmap is for the next 10 years. But in between, how fast should we move? That's something that still has to be decided. So they appreciate that.
Right. And speaking of the economic climate, it seems, rather unsteady and unstable. How well then will these external environment actually complicate these changes?
Well, it depends on how things unfold and also how deep, the impact might be. And is it just going to be a few sectors affected, or is it going to be very broad-based? So it's a little too early to tell, but suffice to say that the tripartite partners are very focused on watching the developments very closely and consulting with one another. What happens is that after the implementation of the higher retirement age as well as the re-employment age from July 2022, we can observe the impact on employment rates, and then we can decide what to do next.
So next up, I want to talk about redesigning jobs for older workers. That appears to be key in terms of retaining these older workers. And I'm wondering, what have companies here done so far in this respect?
Yes, I think if you look at the fact that our employment rates for older workers have actually gone up over the last 10 years, that suggests to me that, in fact, companies have been making adjustments, dealing with the fact that the workforce is an aging one. So if you look at something that some of us will be familiar with, if you go onto an airplane, you will always be served some meals. And these meals are usually prepared in central kitchens, and they have to, work on maybe tens of thousands of meals every single day. And in the past, where their workers used to have to use a ladle, industrial-sized ladle, to cook the fried rice or the fried bee hoon, that kind of work has become strenuous as the workers become older. So what has happened is that these central kitchens, they have invested in new equipment, such as an auto fryer, that will be able to relieve the worker. And instead, the worker is now asked to acquire new skills in operating the machine. So these are the kinds of adjustments that we have seen. It's not just in central kitchens, it's not just in food and beverage. Across the board, we see companies taking an interest in how they can equip their older workers to stay relevant and continuing to contribute to their businesses.
And also in terms of getting companies to retain these older workers, do you think that having certain HR policies, for instance, will actually make a difference?
Very much so. For one thing, for example, companies have to deal with the issue of medical cost. Many companies today have not adjusted to the fact that we now have universal health insurance through MediShield Life. Some of them still have duplicate insurance coverage, such as group hospitalization and surgical. So that's an area that they can work on. Another area is that many of the employers that were involved in the consultation do tell us that with this clear roadmap, they probably want to get their HR to do career planning much earlier, meaning that they would want to sit down with their employees to map out the timeline as well as the plans for skills redevelopment as well as jobs enhancement much earlier than waiting until the retirement age is upon them. So I think these are good developments. Overall, I think if we can help to cultivate a more inclusive workforce as well as more progressive workplaces, we will all stand to gain from them.
So, all right, Minister, just before I let you go, I have to ask you this question. So, in the future, will we be seeing more ministers, maybe even yourself, still working when you're 70?
Oh, wow, that's a really tough question. I can say safely, probably not me, but I can't speak on behalf of everyone else.